After that period, they are held incapable of any employment of trust or profit. They cannot purchase lands or take leases. Neither are they allowed to be witnesses in any cause, either civil or criminal, not even for the decision of meres and bounds. At 90, they lose their teeth and hair. They have at that age no distinction of taste, but eat and drink whatever they can get without relish or appetite. The diseases they are subject to still continue without increasing or diminishing. In talking, they forget the common appellation of things and the names of persons, even of those who are of the nearest friends and relations. For the same reason, they never can amuse themselves with reading, because their memory will not serve them to carry them from the beginning of a sentence to the end, and by this defect they are deprived of the only entertainment whereof they might otherwise be capable. The language of this country being always upon the flux, the Struldbruggs of one age do not understand those of another, neither are they able after 200 years to hold any conversation, farther than by a few general words, and their neighbors, the mortals, and must lie under the disadvantage of living like foreigners in their own country. This was the account given me of the Struldbruggs as near as I can remember. I afterwards saw 5 or 6 different ages, the youngest not above 200 years old, who were brought to me at several times by some of my friends. But although they were told that I was a great traveler and had seen all the world, they had not the least curiosity to ask me a question, only desired I would give them Schlumdask, or a token of remembrance, which is a modest way of begging, to avoid the law that strictly forbids it, because they are provided for by the public, although indeed with a very scanty allowance. They are despised and hated by all sorts of people. When one of them is born, it is reckoned ominous, and their birth is recorded very particularly, so that you may know their age by consulting the registry, which, however, hath not been kept above 1,000 years past, or at least hath been destroyed by time or public disturbances. But the usual way of computing how old they are is by asking them what kings or great persons they can remember, and then consulting history, for infallibly the last prince in their mind did not begin his reign after they were fourscore years old. They were the most mortifying sight ever I beheld, and the women more horrible than the men. Besides the usual deformities in extreme old age, they acquired an additional ghastliness in proportion to their number of years, which is not to be described, and among half a dozen I soon distinguished which was the oldest, although there were not above a century or two between them. The reader will easily believe that from what I have heard and seen, my keen appetite for perpetuity of life was much abated. I grew heartily ashamed of the pleasing visions I had formed, and thought no tyrant could invent a death into which I would not run with pleasure from such a life. The king heard of all that had passed between me and my friends upon this occasion, and rallied me very pleasantly, wishing I would send a couple of Struldbruggs to my own country to arm our people against the fear of death. But this, it seems, is forbidden by the fundamental laws of the kingdom, or else I should have been well content with the trouble and expense of transporting them. Fascinating look at why we don't want to be immortal.